sell everything.
The products on offer in supermarkets are highly tempting. The shelves are always full of fresh food.
I'm going to remove the milk from the shelves. It expires in 2 days. Everything that's scanned when it's sold is automatically reordered, but we always order extra, particularly towards the weekend, because we always need more at the weekend.
There are more than 100 different yogurts on the market. Supermarkets stock several tens of thousands of products to tempt us at ever-decreasing prices.
We have certain products such as spring onions, radishes, and lettuces, which can only be sold for 1 day. The products have to look perfect. They mustn't have any blemishes. Strawberries can't have blemishes either. This kohlrabi is fine, but nobody will buy it when the leaves are missing. But if the leaves are there, they take them off.
If we take a look back to the 60s, we had a supply problem and had to feed hungry people. Today, we have an abundance of food and have to make satiated people hungry. That's a very important task we have. Look at how high people's requirements are. We have more food retail space in Germany than anywhere else in the world. The competition is very strong. Consumers have an endless range of choice and only choose the best.
Supermarkets create new demand with products that we often don't need. That's how they increase their turnover. But they're secretive about how much surplus they throw away. Felicitas Schneider, a scientist from Vienna, was one of the few people in the world who was allowed to tot up one supermarket's food waste. The business doesn't want to be named.
We once conducted a supermarket survey. We examined how much food was thrown away, food that would still have been edible. This study ran for 10 weeks. We found out that each store threw away 45 kilograms of perfectly good food every day. These products had passed their best before date. If you'd looked at the food, it was just as good as if it had been fresh. When it comes to dairy products, the whey often separates, but if you give it a shake, it's fine again.
The best before date is determined by the industry itself, not by any authorities. There's nothing to suggest health risks. The date only guarantees certain properties, namely that a yogurt remains creamy, for example. German supermarkets don't want to be filmed throwing food away. In France, one supermarket allowed a film crew to be present.
It's a great shame, because you couldn't even give the meat away to a charity, because the product has such a short shelf life. There's nothing to be done about it. It has to be thrown away. I check the dates every morning and sort out what wasn't sold. A supermarket like this one produces between 500 and 600 tons of waste every year. If you look in our bins, you can see that even food that hasn't expired yet is also thrown away. That's because the manufacturers keep the sell-by dates on their products short as a precautionary measure. In the past, a bottle of mineral water kept for a year and a half. Now it expires after 6 months.
It's only when it comes to meat, fish and eggs that the date printed on the packet has anything to do with health risks. Many people wrongly believe this to be true for all foods. That's why a lot is thrown away that's still perfectly edible. People variously known as dumpster divers or binners are fighting back. In protest and out of conviction, they get their food from supermarket bins.
I think it's good to make sure that as little as possible is thrown away, because this waste is creeping. There's so much hunger in the world because of climate change and transport problems, things I don't want to support. And so I think it's a good idea to buy as little as possible and get what I need from bins. Of course, there were things I found disgusting. You just close the bin and don't get anything new to eat that day. It happens, but usually the next bin makes up for the disgusting one.
Hannah and Sandro mustn't get caught. Legally, they are thieves because the food is still the property of the supermarket even after it's been thrown away.
It's as easy as it sounds. You go to the supermarket, open the bin, get the food out, go home and cook. Of course, you need a certain flexibility in your cooking if you're going to live like this.
Funktioniert das nicht mit den Containern. Ich glaube, das Öl ist dann auch heiß. Ja, die da als erstes dann den Brokkoli. Wollen Sie mal auflaufen? Nö, ich kann auch relativ fit.
But food waste begins earlier than this, on the fields during the harvest.
Some potatoes are too small. They're sorted out by the harvester. Some potatoes are too big. Consumers don't want those. Especially not with new potatoes. They're thrown away. Then there are potatoes with blemishes. They won't sell, and they're also thrown away.
Also
40 to 50% of the harvest is sorted out. This is what gets left behind. You could be forgiven for thinking we haven't harvested here yet because there are so many potatoes left.
Hier sei noch gar nicht aufgesammelt worden. So viel Kartoffeln liegen hier noch.
We impose criteria that don't have anything to do with the quality of the food. They're about appearance only. It really makes you think.
Und dann kommt man schon ins Nachdenken.
I'm happy when people come here and gather up what's left. I like that. Food is about feeding people. I'm happy that people come here and free me from this ethical dilemma by gathering the food for themselves.
The fact that almost half of the harvest is rejected is mainly because of agricultural norms. These norms are usually set by retailers. Increasingly, politicians want less and less to do with it.
There was always this story about the bendy cucumber. The point is the EU put in rules about the bendy cucumber because the trade wanted to have straight cucumbers because it's easier to package, it's easier to sell in the supermarkets. What we've done, we've changed the rules. If someone wants to sell bendy cucumbers, the EU is not going to say, no, you can't sell it. But in practice, supermarkets don't want them because they don't fit in the box.
The European Union has got rid of many of its norms, but retailers are still demanding standardized food.
Getting rid of these norms has been a complete flop because retailers haven't changed their practices at all. When the norms were in place, You couldn't buy a cucumber that wasn't straight. If you walk through the shops these days, you still won't find a cucumber that's not straight.
Da werden Sie heute keine krumme Gurke sehen.
All around the world, food retailers are selling food that looks as standardized and perfect as possible.
They don't understand farming, and they force the farmer to grow X thing looking in X amount. They even have color charts. They even have computerized color checking systems that the tomatoes go through, and the computer checks the color to make sure they're right. And if they're the wrong color, they get zipped off to the side and thrown away. You have this size, and then you have this size, and then you have that size. And anything in between is not correct.
How can we break the hold of these norms? One possibility would be for consumers to make a direct contract with farmers. In the United States, this movement is called Community Supported Agriculture, or CSA for short. More than 2,500 such cooperatives with hundreds of thousands of members have been founded in the United States so far.
The basic idea was to try to get rid of as much of the infrastructure that existed between the farm and the household. You know, you got grocery stores, convenience stores, warehousing, transportation. That's not sustainable. It just takes up too much energy, takes up too much electricity. And the way to get rid of that is to simply make contracts directly with the farmer. So the farmer turns around and grows everything, has it ready to go, brings it into the distribution center straight. And we try to limit farms no more than 200 miles from us. The people who are the consumers here that are coming through are getting their food for about 50 cents per person per day. And they get all the organic vegetables and fruits they can eat.
This model is fighting back against globalization because only 5% of the food stocked by supermarkets comes from local farmers.